Have you ever found yourself Googling how to recover from someone else's addiction at like 2 a.m. while eating handfuls of goldfish? Yeah, me too. I didn't quite give up the goldfish, but I did give up the Googling eventually. Today we are talking about hypervigilance. Those emotions you may experience as the loved one of an addict and the early signs of relational trauma. This isn't just for loved ones, though. It can also help those of you that are struggling. It can help you understand what your partners are experiencing as they support you. Hi, I'm Laura. Welcome to Bookends of Recovery, the podcast where recovery, healing, hope, and most importantly, you take the spotlight. So get ready for some fantastic tools and exercises and gentle reminders that your healing matters too. And of course, there will be some snark because that's just who I am. I definitely needed to laugh through those challenging moments, and I'm sure that you do too. For some of us, loving someone with an addiction can become its own kind of addiction, like that need to control and fix and manage. It just it can take over. And I didn't realize it at first, but I became addicted to my husband's addiction. I remember telling someone who was going through the same thing with her husband, and she was like, "Yes, that's exactly how I feel." Now, I don't know if I became so bad because I'm in recovery myself, but the person I shared that with, she was not in recovery. So if you feel that way, you are not alone. I watched my husband's every move. I questioned his interactions like with his sponsor, obsessed over his recovery. It wasn't about trust anymore. It had become about control. Like I was desperate to catch him doing something wrong. And then when I didn't, I felt almost disappointed, and that moment of clarity hit hard. I wasn't just watching him, I was shifting everything over to him. Yikes on bikes, right? And I was on a slippery slope in my own recovery. And I didn't even know it. That frog in the water. So I'm telling you, like, if you looked up hypervigilance in the dictionary, you would have seen my face like right there. Just because I ticked off every box, and with each passing day, it seemed to get worse. So, like I said, don't worry if you can relate because there is hope. And of course, that's what this podcast, my blog, is all about. It's all about hope. So let's start with ways on navigating your way through this journey. And whether you decide to leave or stay, these tips can still help you. The first thing you want to do is identify patterns. Notice if you're zoning in and fixating on their recovery instead of your own well-being. Like if you're wondering what I did that would have earned my picture next to the definition of hypervigilance, here's just a few things. Things like watching the clock, whether he was at a meeting or at counseling, I just, at work, I just watched the clock. I would use the primary bathroom instead of like the hall bathroom, even though the hall bathroom was closer, just to see if he was really working and not looking at porn. I created a fake social media account so I could look up the people that he had contacted, and then just kept looking at their pictures. And then before all was said and done, I knew way too much about them. I mean, that's just a few things. But I have an exercise opportunity for you. Ask yourself what you've done today for your healing and your recovery. Did you do anything for you? Or did you do anything for their recovery? Because if you did something for their recovery, take a look deeper and remind yourself you're not responsible for anyone's healing and anyone's recovery except your own. The next thing is boundaries. Healthy boundaries. And this is a big one. I say that because mine were so terrible. Define what is acceptable behavior and what isn't, and then stick to it. Healthy being the key word here. My mistake was because I was coming from a place of fear, which is totally understandable. Was my initial boundaries were so controlling. So let's take an example of a healthy boundary instead. I needed honesty about his recovery. So, and I still do, I need us to have open and honest check-in conversations. That's just something that we don't do it all the time, but if I'm not feeling good about something or whatever, then we just have a quick check-in conversation, and he can do the same with me. And obviously, it's not okay to have secret email accounts or, social accounts or anything like that. That's just not going to happen. So here's another exercise opportunity for you. What is an example of a healthy boundary that you can create today? What other boundaries would you like to have in place? And is there anything that's stopping you from creating them? And to piggyback on that, what can you do to make that happen? So in other words, tear down whatever it is that's blocking you. How can you find support? Because that's something I delayed. So if you can you join a support group? Your counselor, if you have one, may offer one. You can attend meetings like Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, S-Anon, to connect with others who understand. The platform we used, Fortify, had great support groups. Just please don't do what I did in the beginning. I isolated for too long after I attended a meeting that I didn't resonate with. And then because of that, I surrounded myself with super unhealthy people. And it did so much damage to my well-being. And I needed to be around uplifting people. It didn't matter if they were leaving their partner or staying. I just needed to be around healthy people with a good mindset. And that's what I found over at Fortify. And so as long as nobody was bashing their partner, I was just grateful to be there. So here's another exercise for you. You can write down your go-to people and then make a note, like, who makes up your healing hive? Do you think you need a counselor or a life coach? What can you do today to take steps to get a healthy support system in place? And remember, you don't have to solve every single problem right this moment, but you can take steps, even a small one, to get that started. Don't forget to practice self care. Engage in activities that bring you peace, happiness, fulfillment. And it doesn't have to be anything that's like wild and crazy. These can be like reading, yoga, art, dancing. I love my quest. I cannot tell you how much I love that thing. Gardening. Just make sure you're doing these things without feelings of guilt, especially if you're a parent, whether you're, a mom, a dad. We feel guilty for taking time away from our kids. We need to let go of that. We are more than just a mom and a dad. We are individuals. So take that time and enjoy. I've talked before, so I won't, repeat it over and over. But I had to force myself to do them. But then once I did, it was a good feeling to be able to take that time for myself. So, there was an episode of Veep. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that, but there's a character in there. Her name is Amy, and she's supposed to de-stress. So she goes to a spa for like 7 minutes, and she claims she's quote unquote cured. And that was me for a while. So don't be Amy. So, if that's you, yeah, don't be like that. So another exercise opportunity. What brings you peace? What brings you fulfillment and joy? Are you making time in your day or in your week to fit that in for yourself? And if not, how can you make that possible? Another good exercise is journaling. Write about your emotions without that judgment. Just ask yourself, what do I need to heal today? And if that's not something that resonates with you, that's okay. Set a timer for 5 minutes and write down whatever comes to mind. Don't worry if it makes sense. Just get the clutter out of your brain. It's called brainstorming. I like to call it word vomiting. If you need help, if you want to get more into journaling, there's a worksheet on my website. Just look up the worksheets and look for journaling prompts, and that can help you. I also did a blog post on journaling, so you can look up different types of journaling that's out there. So if any of these tips sound like they'd work for you, are there any that you can start today? And if so, which one step can you take today to make it possible? If you have any questions about relational trauma or anything else, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any topics that you want covered on relational trauma, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I have supported people on their journey with relational trauma and in pornography, both partners and addicts. So any topic you want to hear on that, I'm more than happy to cover. Message me on Facebook at Bookends Addiction of Recovery, or share your thoughts on my latest blog post at bookendsofrecovery.com. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Reach out, build your support system, and keep moving forward. I promise you, you can get through this. If you need to get a counselor, find a counselor. They are worth their weight in gold. Never forget how strong you are. I think that sometimes we tend to forget that, especially when we are going through this. You are valuable. This addiction has nothing to do with you. This is a very challenging addiction to wrap our minds around. and to understand that it has nothing to do with us. It is a lot of times it has to do with the inability to connect on a deep emotional level. And so, if you can remember that, look at it just like any other addiction. It's not about you. And if you can remember that, it might help you um, heal a little bit easier. I am sending you all positive vibes. Again, if you need anything, please reach out. I'm here for you. This is Laura sending positive vibes your way. You deserve them.